Hi all, in this video we'll try to talk about the impact of planetary positions on a particular date of interest, that is 4th May 2022. So here the importance is not because of the original planetary positions, but if you see the Navamsha positions of these planets on the day 4th May 2022, that to around 11:50 p.m. IST, that is Indian Standard Timing. Now in this Navamsha positions of 4th May 2022 11:50 p.m., most of the planets are in the state of debilitation except Mars and Saturn. So in the Vedic astrology there are two concepts, one is the exaltation, another one is the debilitation. So astrology, the fundamental formula behind astrology is every planet emanates some rays, and those rays come onto the earth, and those rays are going to govern the events that are going to happen on the earth. And even when you see a birth chart of a particular person, you see the planetary positions because the planetary positions show what kind of energies the person was exposed to when he was born, right? So based on that, his ideology or his philosophy, his ethics, his discipline, or his morality, or whatever, his energy levels, his health, everything is predicted based on that. Now, so what is exaltation and debilitation here? See, most of the planets here are actually debilitated in the Navamsha positions especially. So when a planet is exalted, what happens is most of its rays would come onto the earth, right? So let us say when Jupiter is in Cancer, right? So, and it is completely exalted, then 100% of Jupiter rays would be coming onto the earth. Let us say, let's take Sun. Sun is exalted in the sign of Aries, right? So when Sun is in the sign of Aries, you can see most of its rays coming onto the earth, you can say, right? Most of the Sun's energy, we say. And let us take Venus. Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces. So whenever Venus is transiting the sign of Pisces, whatever rays Venus emanates, among them almost 99% of the rays would be coming onto the earth, right? So that is the basic concept. And what about the debilitation of a planet? So whenever a planet is debilitated, its rays are not going to come onto the earth. If it is deeply debilitated, most of the times you can say only 1% or 0.8% of its rays would be coming onto the earth. If the planet is really debilitated, completely deeply debilitated. If it is debilitated, of course, only a particular percentage, something like 5 to 10% of the rays of the planet would be coming onto the earth, right? That is the state of debilitation. So debilitation is lack of something. Exaltation is having something in a good amount, right? So that is exaltation and debilitation. Now on 4th May 2022, what's happening? See, Mercury is debilitated in the sign of Pisces. So you can see on the day Mercury is present in the sign of Pisces. Now you check another planet, Venus. Venus is debilitated in the sign of Virgo, and Venus, you can see on the day, is present in the sign of Virgo. And now take Sun. Sun is debilitated in the sign of Libra. So you can see Sun is present in the sign of Libra. So Sun is also debilitated. And if you talk about Moon, right? Generally, Moon is very much closer to our Mother Earth, and so people don't consider Moon's debilitation. But if you want to consider Moon's debilitation, then of course moon is debilitated in the sign of Scorpio, right? Around 3 degrees of Scorpio, we say generally. But there is a school of thought, according to one school of thought, there is no debilitation for moon at all. But there is another school of thought which is considering moon's debilitation in the sign of Scorpio. Even you can see the people having moon in the sign of Scorpio, they're a bit worried, right? In the background, even though whatever they are doing throughout their life, they're generally worried. Moon in Scorpio, worried, a bit, they experience a kind of stress, a continuous stress throughout their life. That's a normal phenomena, right? So that's about the individual personalities. But of course, moon, if you want to consider the debilitation point, then you can consider that in the sign of Scorpio. So moon is also debilitated, you can say, on that day. So how many planets? Mercury, Venus, Sun, Moon. 4 planets debilitated. Now, Rahu, if you take, so some people consider Rahu is exalted in the sign of Taurus. Some people consider Rahu is exalted in the sign of Gemini. Right? There is some kind of discussion for Rahu. Whenever people talk about Rahu, they say Aquarius, Taurus, Gemini, Virgo. They talk about these 4 signs. Some people say Rahu's own sign is Virgo. Some people say Rahu's own sign is Aquarius. Some say Rahu's own sign, or at least consider exaltation sign, is Taurus. Some people say Rahu's own sign is Gemini, or exaltation sign is Gemini, because Gemini is all about it's a kind of technology. The Gemini business skills are completely exceptional, right? So, and even you can say the hardcore portion of Gemini is Ardra, the seed of Rahu, right? Ardra Nakshatra is of Rahu. So Rahu is something like Rahu. So Rahu is born in Gemini. Rahu's the seed's energy. I'm not talking about the Puranic story of Rahu and the demon was born in so and so nakshatra. I'm not talking about that. I'm telling you the Rahu seed's energy is in the nakshatra Ardra, and Rahu's flowering energy is in the nakshatra Swati, and Rahu's fruit, the complete fruit energy is in the nakshatra of Shatabhisha, right? Now here, so Rahu is exalted, or Rahu is very much comfortable in the sign of Gemini, I can say that, right? And just opposite to that, you can see Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is not at all a comfortable position for Rahu. Rahu is completely opposite to the Sagittarius qualities, right? So Rahu is exactly opposite to where it is actually comfortable. It is comfortable in Gemini, but it is exactly opposite to Gemini, that is in the sign of Sagittarius. So Rahu is completely uncomfortable, or if I come with one argument that Rahu is exalted in Gemini, then automatically you can say Rahu is debilitated in the sign of Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is all about rules, right? The organizing skills, the rules, and also it is the religious sign. Sagittarius is always dharma. Rahu is completely out of dharma, right? So it's completely down there. Rahu is completely down in the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ethics, it's a philosophy, it's a morality, right? It's a religion. Sagittarius is that. But Sagittarius is the Mula Trikona house of Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is a Deva Guru, means as a guru of gods, Jupiter, right? So in that Sagittarius, Rahu is completely down. It's almost, right? It's almost not present. Rahu's energy has no value at all there. And Ketu is, at the same time, Ketu is very much comfortable in the sign of Sagittarius, and there's a school of thought that Ketu is exalted in the sign of Sagittarius, or Ketu is exalted, some people say Ketu is exalted in the sign of Scorpio, but there is a school of thought that Ketu is exalted in the sign of Sagittarius. So that Ketu is directly present, because Sagittarius is always about spirituality also. It's religion. After that kind, it's more about some spirituality. Of course, Pisces is the ultimate spiritual sign there, but to attain some kind of spirituality, you need to follow some kind of dharma, right? So according to Vedic philosophy, if you follow a kind of a good nurtured dharma, then only you can attain, a very good spiritual status, right? So dharma is not about completely religion. Dharma is what you have to follow, what kind of ethics, philosophy, and right, those things, right, they talk about dharma. So if you follow dharma, then ultimately you will have liberation. That is the fundamental idea of Vedic philosophy, right? So Ketu is, of course, debilitated in the sign of Gemini, because Gemini is all about the worldly qualities. It's always talking about, the business skills, the MBA, administrative skills, the kind of materialism, whatever materialism you find in the world, you can find it as in Gemini, right? So achieving something by some kind of crooked deeds, or some kind of bad deeds, or hook or crook, whatever, but attaining something any which way is Gemini fundamentally, right? So there is no kind of morality, there is no ethics, there is no philosophy in the world of Gemini. It's always about, if something is not achieved, just create new rules, or out of the box rules, or whatever rules you want to put, you just put it and get the things done. That is the Gemini philosophy. So Ketu is completely down there in the world of Gemini, right? So Rahu and Ketu down, Sun is down, Sun is completely debilitated in the sign of Libra, Venus down in Virgo, Mercury down in Pisces, Moon down in Scorpio. So how many planets? Totally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 planets are completely down. And see, look at Jupiter here. Jupiter is basically in the sign of Leo that time, right? Of course, Leo is a kind of good sign. It's a kind of good sign for Jupiter, but what Jupiter can do in the kingdom, he can only create some rules there, right, by sitting in the kingdom. So Leo is it's a sign having the energy of kingdom energy, right? It's a kingdom energy. So a minister sitting in the kingdom, he can only maybe he's interested in creating new rules, whereas everyone is absent there. Almost everybody is absent. But who are present? So only Jupiter is sitting in the kingdom and writing some rules. At the same time, Venus, Sun, Moon, Rahu, Ketu, Mercury, all are absent. Those energies are absent. So with everybody is absent, what kind of rules Jupiter can create? Just imagine, as Jupiter is a planet of ethics, philosophy, and religion, then it is showing a kind of new ethics, new rules related to some religion, or related to the kingdoms, or related to the governments, basically, right? That's what we can have. We can see that kind of energy coming up here, right? Jupiter. So a kind of new rules for religions, or a kind of new rules for governments, or a kind of new rules for the world, maybe, because everybody is absent. The intelligence, that is the Mercury, is absent, and the Sun, that is the health, is absent here. Moon, the motherly nature, is absent. The Rahu, the cunning and the innovative intelligence, is absent here. the demonic behavior, Rahu is absent here, the undirectional Ketu is absent, the spiritual Ketu is absent, the beautiful Venus, the bliss and the love is absent here. Everything is absent, but someone is writing rules. So everything is absent. For what this guy is writing the rules is something mysterious, right? And at the same time, who are actually present here? Mars is present. Mars is in the Mula Trikona house, in its Mula Trikona house, that is Aries. So see, Scorpio and Aries, both signs are of Mars only, but Scorpio is the own house of Mars, whereas Aries is a Mula Trikona house, that is the duty performing house. So Mars under duty, a military commander under the duty, right? So that is Mars. So Mars is very much present here, and Saturn is exalted actually here. Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra. So a military commander, the Mars, which is sitting in its own house, and also Aries is also the own house of Mars. At the same time, it is also the Mula Trikona house, the duty performing house for Mars. So a military commander performing his duty is just sitting opposite to an exalted Saturn. The exalted Saturn is something like, the kind of normal people you can consider as Saturn, the low wage earners you can consider as a kind of it's also a Saturn, right? So both are in opposition. So what you can see here, Mars is the armed forces, military forces and all the stuff, and Saturn is the common people. So when the common people and the military forces or the police forces are just going opposite to each other, just it's a kind of fight between the armed forces and the normal public. Just what you saw, it's a similar picture you found very much recently in the country Ukraine, right? Or Ukraine, you can say, right? So there, the military forces, just opposite to the Russian military forces, you could find some Ukraine people, the normal civil people. So it's a kind of a civil war. You can consider this one as, right? Because Saturn is that normal people, the low wage earning people, or the very general public is also Saturn. And that Saturn is just opposite to the Mars, the armed forces of the government, police forces or the military general forces of the government. And that is one prediction. So it's showing a kind of civil war, right, where the armed forces are going against the government, going against the normal public, and the normal public are also going against the armed forces. So there is a kind of war between these people, right? So it can be something like the people are completely against the government philosophy, the government policies, you can say, and thereby maybe the government is asking the armed forces to fight against the general public, and the general public are very much exalted, means they are very much powerful here. So most probably the general public will try to even more they will control the armed forces. Even such kind of such kind of situation is, that kind of energy is seen here. At the same time, in this particular Saturn-Mars axis, if you observe, the sun is coming into the picture and it is completely debilitated. So if you talk about this kind of scenario, it may also showing us a kind of, it's also showing us a death. It can be death of a ruler because of the fight between the armed forces of the government and the normal public, right? So because of that, there can be a death of a ruler, an important ruler, most probably. And at the same time, it is also showing us a weakening of a ruler, the rulership, complete weakening of a rulership, right? It's not, I'm not talking about a particular country. It can happen to any country. It is not just for, now people may think, okay, now Russia and Ukraine war is happening, so this guy would be, just predicting about one of the two countries here. No, it's not about Russia and Ukraine. It's not about that. It can be anywhere in the world. It can be anywhere in the world, because we are not considering any kind of ascendant here. We are just trying to understand the behavior of the planets here, right? So this energy can be anywhere in the world. So that's what we can say with this. So there can be, so if you consider the Navamsha, generally we don't see the Navamsha positions much in the mundane astrology, right? But here the positions are really interesting, because just see almost 6 planets are debilitated, and especially, okay, let us say 6 planets are debilitated, that is okay. But what about the most important planets in the face of war? So the whole world is in a kind of it's not in a very stable situation right now. Even in the same channel, we predicted war kind of situation on 28th February 2022, right? That was predicted some weeks before of 28th February 2022. And then we also predicted, if you see the other video on the same channel, the 4th April stuff, the Mars and Saturn. And of course the 4th April stuff everybody knows, right? The Mars and Saturn, a very close conjunction in the sign of Capricorn, that too at 28 degrees, where Mars is completely exalted, peak exaltation of Mars, right? So that is, of course, that 4th April 2022 thing is a very bigger thing, and it did not happen even before in the astrological positions. And even the astrologers have to understand, have to work on it mathematically, when this kind of Mars and Saturn 28 degree conjunction occurred in the sign of Capricorn previously, right? When it happened some it might be happened in some thousands of years ago, but it has to be calculated based on the velocities of Mars and Saturn. So I did not do it, but right. So if anybody can try, they can try and understand when this kind of thing, that 4th April 2022 thing actually happened in the history of times, right? It might be happened once or any time, right? Based on the velocities, and because Saturn comes to the sign of Capricorn once in 30 years, and that too you can find Saturn and Mars conjunction, right? You can find in every sign every year, but in the sign of Capricorn you can find Saturn Mars conjunction only once in 30 years, and that too at 28 degrees you cannot find in 30 years also, because the moment Saturn is at 28 degrees of Capricorn, Mars would be somewhere in the zodiac, and the moment Mars is at 28 degrees of Capricorn, Saturn would be somewhere in the zodiac. Even though Saturn is in the sign of Capricorn, at the same time it may not be at the same degree, that is the 28 degree, right? So the 28 degree thing is a very bigger thing in astrology. That to the two important planets, the Saturn and Mars, which are the war planets, right? Whenever you want to consider, whenever you want to predict something about war, then you generally consider Mars and Saturn connection, and even more if Rahu is also joining there, that's it. It's a world war, and it happened already, World War I and World War II. Just see, we also made some videos the same channel about World War I and World War II, right? So you can just go through that. So the Mars Rahu Saturn connection only can make world wars, not the other planets. And here there is a completely out of the box thing coming on the 4th April 2022, which is actually the Mars and Saturn close conjunction with Rahu's aspect on it, Rahu's 9th aspect on it. And it's a completely new thing, right? The war style also a kind of, it's a completely new variety of war, new strategic war or whatever. It's going to be a kind of a kind of war only. It's a kind of disruptive thing only, but at the same time it is completely new for the world, right? That kind of war it is showing on 4th April 2022. At the same time, the 4th May 2022 is a kind of this planetary, all planets getting debilitated, and at the same time the important planets for war, which are Mars and Saturn, they are taking the control again here, where Jupiter is just sitting silent. But one more important thing here is Jupiter is having its 9th aspect on Mars, right? But generally in the Navamsha, when you come to Navamsha, aspects and those things may go down, because this is the 9th, this one, you're just making it 1 by 9 and preparing this Navamsha. And again, if you consider the aspects of the planets, it may not be very much comfortable, but at least if you want to expect something good, then at least you can feel happy with Jupiter's aspect on Mars here. Jupiter is having the beautiful 9th aspect on Mars. That is one positive thing here you can expect. But this Jupiter is a Leo Jupiter, the Jupiter having the King's Court on it. It's kind of completely authenticated, a kind of authenticated Jupiter. A Jupiter in the King's Court, that kind of Jupiter is with Mars here. It's having some 9th aspect on Mars. So most probably this Mars is a kind of a minister, a certificated Mars, you can say. It's something like the government is asking the armed forces to, just go against the public or something, right? So such kind of Mars you can expect here. Whereas the Saturn is also very much powerful, which is actually making the Sun very much weaker, and even more, it is indicating kind of unstable government, because Sun represents the government. Sun is the Karaka of government in the mundane astrology. Sun is the Karaka of rulership. So the rulership is going to be completely down because of the social unrest, or the people are completely against the government. People are really ready to fight against the armed forces. That kind of situation it's showing. So it is basically, I just want to say, it is predicting, based on this, you can predict two things. One is the civil war. The second thing is civil war can be something like the people are completely against the government. People will fight against the government severely. It's not a simple thing, right? and that too at this point of a time in the world. It's not a simple thing. So that is a civil war. So people are fighting against the adharma of the government. It's not that these people are fighting against the dharma, against the dharma. It is they are fighting against the adharma. That's what you can say here. So one is the civil war, another one is a death of a ruler or weakening of rulership, or a kind of weakening of the governments all around the globe. It is basically showing that the 4th May 2022 thing is of course it's one of the interesting phenomena, right? So thanks for watching this video.